Hello, everybody, and welcome to I'll go ahead and say a savage UFC breakdown here today of the final, unfortunately, the final UFC card of the year. Um, One consistency throughout this very inconsistent time of COVID has been the UFC for the most part. So to get to this point in the year and be able to talk about the amount of cards I've been able to talk about this year and break down the fights and watch the fights as a fan. Very, very happy. And of course, with it being the final COVID card of the year, it wouldn't be a COVID card without a few cancellations. So let me get those out of the way right away here. One of which I literally found out about as I was pulling up this card on Tapology. That's Rick Glenn's fight against Carlton Minus. We can minus that fight from the card. Rick Glenn has tested positive for COVID. So tough break for Rick Glenn. He was honestly one of the maybe easier, closer to lock picks on this card. There's a lot of really close matchups. I have a lot of dogs I will be going through as we progress here. But Rick Glenn off the card with COVID. Earlier this week, Bilal Muhammad off the card with COVID. So his fight against Diego Lima probably both of these fights will be just rescheduled to early next year. That seems to be what they've done. We'll talk about here with the first fight of the night. So perfect segue, I guess. But I'm Aaron the Dog, if I didn't say that or you couldn't see this. And I'm here to break down this now 13 fight UFC card. So still a little bit bigger than usual, but not the 15 fights that we once kind of saw on the horizon. Kazmat Chimaev off the fight card due to Leon Edwards' COVID test. So, yeah, we've got a few fights that are just probably getting moved, hopefully. Hopefully everybody's safe and healthy. But anyways, let's go ahead and break down. Thank you for the love, Tony. I appreciate you popping in. Maybe I can teach you a thing or two if you stick around. But anyways, let's jump on into this card. I apologize if I'm a little more distracted here as I'm going in and out of trying to check kind of information lines to you and maintain a little bit of a presence here. So thank you for working with me. Anyways, first fight of the night now, a fight I'm very, very excited about. He's been a guest on Inside the Distance podcast. He's I consider a good friend at this point, but regardless, I'm here to break down the fights, and he's a great fighter. That's Jimmy the Brick Flick in his UFC debut, finally, after his fantastic performance on the Contenders Series. And he's had his debut just pushed back a couple weeks here. So now he's facing off against Cody Durden still. Cody Durden had to pull out of the fight a couple weeks ago on the 5th of December due to pink eye. So I think it's interesting here because we've seen the odds get closer for this fight now, which I'm not exactly understanding the line movement here. Jimmy is still the favorite at minus 150. I like Jimmy a lot in this fight. I think that it's a very, very intriguing, interesting matchup. One knock on Jimmy is he's been finished by KO in 4 of his 5 losses. However, those fights have occurred at 135. They have also occurred against very, very legitimate UFC competition. And Durden had a very good first round against Gutierrez, Christian Gutierrez, I believe. But Gutierrez, for the most part, a kickboxer. And besides the first round, when Cody Durden was able to get that takedown and maintain that back control, I mean, he won a 10-8 and then he lost the next 2 rounds. That was also at 135. This is Durden's, I believe, first time actually making it down to 125. I do know he has one other fight that he had at flyweight, but I don't believe he made the weight. And if so, it's been a long time. This will be the 3rd time, however, because he did make the weight for his fight on the 5th. And I think that plays a huge factor here. Jimmy Flick, I believe, will have a huge, huge cardio advantage in this matchup. We might see an opportunity if you're able to live bet. This might be a spot to keep it a live bet on with Jimmy as well, because I wouldn't put it past Cody to come out and blitz a little bit and maybe even look to wrestle himself. I think, however, Flick is dangerous from both bottom and top. I do think, obviously, he's going to look to get the top position, but I think the first round we might see Cody in his best positions in the fight. This could cause the live bet movement to lean a little bit towards Cody, and you could end up with getting Jimmy at plus money. But regardless, minus 150, I like it. I do like him to get the submission. 13 of his 14 wins by 15 wins by submission. And I look for him to get another submission here as well. Due to his wrestling, I do believe that he has the better wrestling as well. And I think that Durden will suffer from the 2 weight cuts in very, very close proximity. Also having pink eye, I'm not sure who he was able to train with over these last couple weeks. So I know Jimmy Flick, the night that he got the cancellation, was out running. He was out. He was very, very frustrated. He got his show money, but he wanted a lot more than that. And I just think that this is Jimmy all day here. I love this price. I loved how he looked on the Contender Series. The 13 submission attempts was a Contender Series record, and he wasn't gassing out his arms. He was flowing. He was chaining together these transitions, training it together this submission game. And this is just all Jimmy here. I think Jimmy is the better guy at 125, especially. He's 6-1 in the division, while Cody Durden, I believe, is 0-1 in the division, and has making the cut twice in a couple weeks. The pink eye questions, too many questions here, and Jimmy's got the answers. So I like Jimmy to get a submission. I think second or third round he gets it. I don't get discouraged at all if Jimmy loses the first either. I do feel Cody is, for the most part, in this fight going to be KO or bust. So that's always a possibility, but I like Jimmy to have the savvy to do what he has to do here. Improved stand-up, improved overall game. He's worked hard to get to this point, and Jimmy knows that Fight Bananas, we're rooting for you, but I put that aside here as I'm making my breakdowns, and I believe he will have the better MMA game here. So great first fight. Really looking forward to it, and yeah, Jimmy, you got a spot here anytime, so we're looking forward to seeing you performing there, Jimmy. On to the next fight, and again, that was at flyweight. This fight at 185, the middleweight division, it's between Tefon Don Nchukwu and Jamie Pickett. Nchukwu 4-0, but definitely made a splash on the Contender Series. Kind of find a guy who was maybe a 170er, to be honest, so Al Montevo, but he really put him away. It was scary, a head kick. Jamie Pickett, on the other hand, also from the Contender Series, took him a few shots on the Contender Series to get here, but did end up beating Jonathan Patai by a TKO in the second round, blitzed him with a 20-punch combination, and definitely stamped his ticket. I think this is going to be a really good fight. I think for the most part it stays on the feet, and it is a kickboxing bout. So with Nchukwu, so far what we've seen is nothing but good. His takedown defense looks legit. His striking looks phenomenal. His grappling himself looks very, very composed and very good. I mean, he's only 4-0 and he's only 26 years old, but this guy seems to have the goods, and they seem to be giving him a pretty good matchup, if I'm being honest, here against Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett has losses on the Contender Series to Puliana Soriano, as well as Charles Bird. The Charles Bird one particularly did not age great. He did earn a few wins to get back into the UFC here. I do think he's getting a tough debut here, and I believe they're wanting to see what Nchukwu can do on the feet. So, again, I think the odds here, minus 310 for Nchukwu, that's tough for me. Only 4-0, 26 years old, UFC debut. There's a lot of unknowns here, and Jamie Pickett has never been finished by strikes. So this is a good chance that Nchukwu has to go the full 3 rounds maybe to get it. I won't say a good chance, actually, because I am picking Nchukwu by KO, but it's a little bit of a buyer's beware. 310, it's a parlayable piece, but there's ways you can see that Jamie Pickett's able to take his best punches, work through it. Jamie Pickett always shows up in very good shape. But I'm going to take Nchukwu. He seems to be on another level, and I think fighting at 185, this is frightening to me. We got a couple guys on this card fighting at 185 that, first of all, I want to see how they make it to the scales. That is always something worth noting and checking out, because Nchukwu was a light heavyweight on the Contender Series. He fought at 220 pounds against William Knight. He's now fighting at 185 pounds. So, this isn't dropping from 155 to 145. This is dropping 20 pounds. So, again, it's a minus 310 heavy hitter favorite. We've seen this with a lot of different heavy hitter, even judokus. If you look at, of course I'm blank. Abdul Razak Hassan. We saw him a few weeks ago. He was a minus 310 favorite. Judoku background, very heavy hitter. But after the first round, those heavy hits get a little less heavy. So I'm just saying, buyer beware. I'm taking Nchukwu by KO, but that is also not getting you a great price at minus 310. And even if you take the specific method of victory. So buyers beware here. That's all I can say. But Nchukwu should get this done. Jamie Pickett did take quite a few shots against Jonathan Patai. And yeah, I just think that this is a very good kickboxing fight, and Nchukwu is the better guy. What's going on, Craig? Thanks for joining us, brother. We're in the middle of our 13 fight card here. Unfortunately, 13, not 14. In case you didn't hear the news, because I found it out when I looked up on Tapology, Rick Glenn out with COVID. So after 2 years out with a hip injury, now COVID, that's rough for him. So we're minus that fight, a Carlton minus, if you will. All right, we're on to our third fight of the evening, and this is in the bantamweight division. This is hopefully will be a good fight. I'm just not quite sure what to think of particularly one of these fighters, but it's between Draco Rodriguez, Contender Series alum again, and he's taking on the brother of Firas, Ayman Zahabi. So we all know Firas Zahabi, TriStar. Ayman Zahabi has had a little bit of a rough go of it in the UFC so far. 33 years old, not exactly young either. He's been off for almost a year and a half now since losing to Vince Morales. So that's not great. I do follow Ayman on Instagram as well, and he's spending a lot of time with his family. So again, I'm just a little bit concerned here. It seemed that Ricardo Ramos' double spinning elbow really took a lot of wind out of the sails of Zahabi. And he's facing off against a young kid in Draco Rodriguez, 24 years old. However, I don't see Draco being able to exactly beat Ayman in the same way that Ayman's been getting beat lately, which is a little bit by getting overwhelmed on the feet and pressured. But that is how Draco, I believe, wins this fight. I don't believe he's going to be able to I don't believe he'll have a huge, if any, grappling advantage against Zahabi, who does have a pretty legitimate grappling game. And so I think that this does become a little bit of a kickboxing fight here, more so. So I'm not exactly super sold on Draco's stand-up skills here. This is UFC debut, 24 years old. I look at kind of the level of competition Draco has fought, and it's not great. And against Tony Gravely, where he could not get the takedowns and could not use his grappling, he got whooped on for 4 rounds before being put away in the 5th by Tony Gravely. Made Tony Gravely, who is a very decent UFC competitor, but I wouldn't describe him as a world beater, look like a world beater. So again, we're in a situation here where we have a young, unproven 7-1 kid who did have a very impressive finish on The Ultimate Fighter, but it was a quick submission finish, and I don't see that being the case here. I do think he has kind of a wild stand-up game, so I think Zahabi could have a chance at having the more technical game here. And he was, doing pretty well against Ricardo Ramos as that fight went on. So I am not feeling really too comfortable taking either guy, but it's going to be Draco for me, but I'm not putting any money on that. In fact, if Zahabi gets steamed a little bit more, I might be taking the dog. I also bring my dogs with me at points, so I'm going to bring on a good buddy of mine, the guy who I think runs this channel. Dave, what's up, buddy?
What's up, dude? How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Do you like the background?
Dude, unbelievable.
The
joke is that it's Savage Week.
Of course.
It is.
It is Savage Week here on Savage Bananas. How are you doing?
Dude, man, good. I got to throw you one of these hoodies in the mail, man. These Icon hoodies are everything right now.
Yeah, I just got my plain black hoodie that I got on Amazon Vine for free. So, I'm trying it out before I get my review in. So, shout out to Mom for hooking me up with that.
There you go.
But yeah.
What are you on?
So I just finished up the Draco Rodriguez Amin Zahabi fight.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard the news about Rick Glenn, but
yeah, I heard it from you.
Yeah, I found out as I was pulling up the card right before here. So
there you go.
Tough break for Rick Glenn. Honestly, it was a spot I was going to take Rick Glenn and feel quite confident in, even at the price, and even with the time off. Carlton
a better chance of Jillian getting $50K in the bank account. That's all that means to me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think that there's a reason that they put 15 fights on the final. This is why the 2 fights. But I mean, I assume you don't have too much else to say about the first 3 fights of the night. We're on Jimmy Flick Foley. I'm a little bit scared of Nchukwu, I said. I'm just a little bit worried at minus 310 as a 4-0 guy.
Right.
Who, I mean, we've seen this movie before.
Right. And I've talked to Jamie Pickett. He's in a great camp. He's like one of those Joe Seleckis and Impa. Like, those guys are just tough. They've been there before. If we had to pick one or another, I'm probably going the other way. But if plus 240, 260, and a little bit of a parlay, I don't mind adding Jimmy Pickett to a Flick and a Jillian and getting plus 800, 900 money. That's one of those fine plays I like. Yeah,
exactly. Sometimes you got to kind of split when the line gets that much, even if you do want Nchukwu and because you don't want to lose a parlay on a minus 300. Doesn't feel good. I lost my prop parlay on a minus 220 with the Chase Hooper Pete Barrett fight finishing in under 2.5 rounds.
Right.
In 3 minutes. So missed it by 30 seconds. It happens though.
And I kind of want to throw something out before you hit up the next fight with this being the last card of the year, and what's up, guys? And there's been so much, I feel like money with fights every weekend. Okay, is it one of those things that it's like, I feel like this card, I have to almost bet on every fight. There's a little bit of me that it's like the Super Bowl. Like, you bet first quarter, second quarter. It is what it is. So I might be a little bit loose on this card, and I just want I'm throwing it out there. Disclaimer, I'm throwing it out there. Like, I'm being loose. Yep. I like multiple parlays. There's a couple picks that I was on the fence, and I'm kind of going to probably bet more than I would have if it was a normal card. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm going all in on a couple.
Hey, you know what? I wish I could say this isn't true, but more often than not, that's how I approach every card. You've seen my betting tickets as I go. I mean, I find a way to convince myself into just about every fight in some way, shape, or form. This card is no exception. And speaking of weird fights, we've got, I think, one of the weirdest ones on the card here coming up next. It's a catchweight fight, 195. So, and it's between Deron Wynn and Antonio Arroyo. And this fight is very interesting to me because I don't usually with these catchweight fights, I have an idea of who the catchweight benefits.
Right.
I do not know who it benefits in this fight. Antonio Arroyo is a massive, massive middleweight. So I do lean that way initially.
You got
However, with Deron Wynn, the one thing that I just think that I've got to say about him so far is I don't see it. No, I haven't seen it once.
Yep.
had a read. How's it going, Melissa, Haley? Thank you guys for joining us, or gals, I should say, for joining us. And so the one thing that I did notice in Deron Wynn's debut against Tom Lawler, he didn't finish Tom Lawler. And if you're not finishing Tom Lawler, I'm a little bit concerned. And then as I see the fights go on, Gerard Mearshart gets taken down plenty against Deron Wynn, gets up every time effortlessly, and turns into like a kung fu kicking machine in that fight as well.
I love that. GM3. Loved it.
And I loved it too. I'm a huge GM3 fan. It's been a rough couple last fights being a GM3 fan. But, regardless, the kicks never look better for Mearshart. The kicks is what Arroyo has in this fight. I think that Arroyo is going to be able to get up from Deron Wynn's takedowns. I think Deron Wynn gets takedowns, but I think Arroyo wins a decision.
Me too.
Kickboxing. And I think it's fairly clear cut.
Deron Wynn should be a welterweight. His height and his reach and his body type, he should be a welterweight. He's so thick and he's so just, doesn't want to maybe cut that weight or maybe can't cut that weight. He's a small, little, let's just be honest, middleweight. And then for this to add 10 more pounds to the catch weight, I was iffy about this fight. And then the more and more I looked into it, I was like, it's not even I love Arroyo. It's like you just got to go that way. It is the smart betting way. If he doesn't win, he doesn't win. Or if there's something, if Wynn sits on him for 15 minutes somehow, we lose money. But I'm all on it. And the line was, I thought, tell me if I'm wrong, it was like plus 200. Like minus 200 for Antonio early 2 weeks ago. It's like down to, I saw minus 135 recently.
Yeah, and it's shifted back towards Arroyo now. I have it at minus 165 on most sites.
Wow. Yeah, so
I think that, again, the smart money allowed for the Deron Wynn who read that Sherdog article 3 or 4 years ago about Deron Wynn coming to MMA. Didn't decide to update it at all. So I don't think Deron Wynn is a welterweight. I think he's a lightweight, frankly.
Wow.
He's 5'6". He's 5'6", Dave.
I agree, dude.
He's 5'6". That is a short lightweight. That's a short featherweight. And he has I don't really see the finishing ability I win, so I really only see a decision. So I think the over 2.5 play as well is a good little cover in case Wynn is able to squeak this out.
Good point.
I don't see a finish here. Like if Wynn goes in and gets a first round TKO, I'm just like, wow, Arroyo was that bad. I didn't know. I did not know because he survived 15 minutes with Muniz, who we just saw Muniz against Bartosz Fawinski and how his grappling looks. So we've spent more than enough time on this card. On
the money spot is the over 2.5. That's the money spot. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. But, often, you don't have to bet on the fighter. You often can bet against the fighter they're fighting.
Yeah.
I've done it once or twice. So does not always work like any game in MMA you're using for betting. You cannot use one game in MMA for betting because you'll get caught. It's right. MMA betting is like MMA itself. You have to have multiple skills to be well-rounded. It can't always be the heart. It can't always be the mind. It's got to be the both. So I'm working on it as we go here. But really looking forward to that fight. And speaking of a fight I'm looking forward to, this might be fight of the night. Not because of the stakes, but just because of the two gentlemen competing. 185 between Carl Roberson and Dolce Champion. If this fight hits the ground at all, I'm going to be very upset and disappointed and sad and just yelling at the TV like a Just Bleed guy to get up because I want to see these two bang it out until one of them goes down. And I don't know if you heard me. This is at middleweight.
Yeah, that's like
middleweight. Dolce Champion going to middleweight is about to be either spectacular or spectacularly bad.
Right.
I'm leaning towards the other way.
Okay.
It's not going to be great. It could be a situation, it could be a Cannonier situation. Cannonier cut the weight very late in his career. But if you look at both these guys fighting at heavyweight, Dolce was cut at heavyweight. Then he went to light heavyweight. He was extra cut. And now he's going to middleweight. He's going to be extra cut. That doesn't win MMA fights.
True.
It just doesn't. if it did, guys like Jamie Pickett would be undefeated. Sorry, Jamie Pickett, but he's on the all body team. But again, like
great body.
I mean, Jamie Pickett, top 5 MMA body, which you aren't going to hear on any other podcast, but here we are. I'm really looking forward to this fight. There has been some rumblings with this fight that there's been some medical issues, and it seems like with every Roberson fight, there's some medical issues. So in general, Roberson is only losing when guys decide to fight an MMA game. When they decide to fight a kickboxing fight against the Glory Carl Roberson, they lose.
Right.
I mean, Roberson had that great win against Spann on the Contender Series, which it was before Spann was gassing, so you can't say like everybody else who beats Spann that they just, so, but again, with Dalcha, he's supposedly a judo. He's one of these judo champions like Al Hassan, who just never uses their judo once they became an MMA fighter.
Yeah, so that happens a lot.
He's allegedly a judo like black belt, but unless we see that, even if we see that, I don't see that being a great game plan for Dalcha, because I think his gas is literally 1 round. So it's just, I think it is first round KO or absolute clinic by Roberson. Roberson's better technically though, so I got Roberson here. The price, by the way, I hate -255.
There you go. This is a total not the guys fighting. I'm literally just seeing the number, and I absolutely love +215 the other way. I don't love Carl at -255. That's to me way out of line. I'm thinking it should be around the -150 spot. So at +215, and then here you go. I'm gonna match that up with the under 1.5 rounds at +115. So I got +215, +115. I'm parlaying that together and throwing a little 20 spot on it. That's what we're doing.
I love it. All right. I mean, I love it. I'm still formulating my plan here as we go, but that is definitely going to be included, I think, in there. I don't know if I can.
It's worth it. It's probably going to be +600, 550. And
yeah, it's
just literally happened. That's 50-50.
I got to see the weigh-ins for Dalcha. I have to see what a 185 Dalcha looks like, because that is really, really concerning for me. I don't know how he's going to make.
You want to see how sucked out he looks?
Yeah, and I don't know why he's doing that exactly. I didn't mind how he looked against Ankalaev before he got his head kicked into space. I mean, and Ankalaev is about to be a champion potentially in 2021 at light heavyweight. Just saying, if he can stop fighting the same guy over and over again, he's going to be. He's a real guy. You put him against Misha Serkinov. You put him against these guys, middle top of the division. He beats them all. So maybe we see a Craig rematch early next year. I'd love to see that. But anyway,
I like him in that spot too.
Yeah, I mean, Craig's really improved too. I think that's a great fight. It's better than the first time around. And Craig got the submission with 14:58. So I mean, I remember that fight. That was unbelievable. All right, this next fight, I think we're going to be able to get through pretty quickly. Not exactly my favorite fight on the card. It's bantamweight women's fight between Sijara Eubanks, Pannie Kianzad. I am not great on Sijara Eubanks' fight. Sijara Eubanks currently the -155 favorite against Pannie. Pannie's going to be the bigger fighter here, but she really lost me a lot with that Bethe Correia almost blowing it against Bethe Correia, but Sijara Eubanks did blow it against Bethe Correia. And Sijara Eubanks does not have the advantages at 135. She had 125.
Right.
And I think we saw that in the Vieira fight. Obviously, the Julia Avila fight then makes us wonder, like, what the hell is going on? Because that was such an amazing performance and such a bad performance by Julia. So I'm just like, I don't really know what to think here. I'm leaning towards Pannie. However, I feel her stand-up is so much better, and I do think she's going to be able to keep this fight from getting to the ground. And as the fight goes on, it becomes more and more Kianzad's advantage. So I think it's a 29-28 type of decision, though, and Sijara can win that.
I agree.
Names on these.
I don't like either way, but at plus money, and it's not a lot, but just, I'm probably going to throw maybe my most minimal bet of the night on this fight just to have some kind of juice on the fight. Yeah. And every time I do that, if I'm going to just be honest, if I'm going to throw 10 or 20 bucks on something for a minus 155 to bet 10, there's nothing in there, $6. Right. If I'm going to bet $10 and then, now I can maybe, if I win this, go to $14, and then I put that $14 on a parlay with the flick, Jillian, and an upset pick, and then that's when you can win money in an MMA scene, when you can kind of get lucky on those coin tosses, but get positive money, and then throw that money on a really nice parlay where you can go 14 to 120. It's kind of like free money. That's how I see it. So I'm going to go with a little bit of the dog. Nothing. It's the smallest bet of the night.
Yeah, and I would just do it as Panty by decision. You'll juice it up to like probably plus 200 about. So you can get her at 2-1 if you do a decision. Panty, I don't think there's a finish in this fight either way. So that's just my kind of.
It's a juice. It's to the gills. Minus 415 on the over. That is high.
Oh, I'm saying for Panty decision.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
200. Yeah, they know it's not. They know it's going to decision. So I'm saying, whoever your side is, put them at decision to at least get it a little bit higher. But yeah, I don't think this is a great fight on a fight card with a lot of really interesting matchups.
Right.
But that's the end of the prelims because Bilal Muhammad and Diego Lima off the card due to COVID. By the way, Bilal Muhammad was up to a minus 400.
Which was crazy, right?
Yes, insane. Like I was about to be on Lima all day, which I know is easy to say now it's done, but I mean,
it's tough money.
Gets hit a lot, and he has a large head to get hit.
He does, and you ready for this one? Just because of what we do, he is so famous now in the podcast game, in the media game. He's on the Anik and Florian podcast. I almost think he's bigger. His name is bigger and more out there than what his game is. And I'm a big fan of Bilal. Like I like his game, but he shouldn't be a minus 400 favorite almost versus anyone in the division. Like literally almost.
And this is against Diego, who's been looking better and better as his UFC career has gone on too. So yeah, I mean, well, we can't really break that down since it's not on, but I think that's a fight that gets rescheduled. I think that's what they're doing with these fights that are off, especially due to COVID. And I'd love to see that fight. So hopefully, Bilal, speedy recovery regardless. We're on to the main card now, the 6-fight main card. And the first fight on the main card, this is at 170 pounds. Anthony Pettis at 170 pounds. What a weird career he's had. And 170, it's been, I think, at its weirdest in my opinion. And he's facing off against Alex Morano. Anthony Pettis, a minus 230 favorite against Alex Morano, who's coming off a way too close performance against Reese McKee, where he took a lot of damage in that fight and turned it right around. This fight is interesting to me because all I'm hearing out of Anthony Pettis is the same thing I've heard out of Anthony Pettis for the last 4 or 5 fights of his. Like, I'm finally clean. I'm finally sober. I'm finally, not being distracted. I've fallen back in love with the game. I figured out what's wrong. Yeah, I just don't know how serious he's going to take Alex Morano. Right. And Alex Morano, while I kind of poo-pooed him on the Reese McKee fight, he's no joke, man. Like, he had that Chaos Williams fight, which was obviously terrible. 4
out of 5. He's won 4 out of 5 UFC fights.
UFC fights, exactly. And
respect it. You have to.
And this is his biggest fight of his UFC career here.
Yep.
He got a lottery ticket in getting a chance at Anthony Pettis at 170 pounds. What is the UFC doing right now? They're cutting 60 fighters, right? Particularly fighters who are making like 150 a show, 150 a win. They're about to find out right now again, like they did with Shogun, like they've done with all these other, like they did with Yoel, like they've done with these other JDS. Like all these guys who haven't gotten cut yet are getting cut. They're doing the same thing here. And Anthony Pettis is going back to Bellator. Or not going back, he's joining his brother in Bellator. And I like the dog Morano in this spot.
Okay.
Because what Pettis does not do well is fighting when he's put on his back foot. And I get it. That's how he won against Stephen Thompson. But
right.
He was not winning that fight until he landed a Hail Mary shot. He wasn't winning that fight. We both saw the fight. He was not winning it. And the game plan, and the game plan to beat Pettis is there. Put him on his back foot, put him against the cage where he can't jump off it, and he does not win. He had that win over Cowboy Cerrone. I think Cerrone won that fight. And Morano here is one thing I don't have a doubt about him is he's going to come forward. He's going to pressure. He's going to try to push Pettis against the cage. And I think he's going to be successful. And I think that at 2-1 dog money, Morano is more than worth playing here. So again, like Melissa, great point here. 10 years ago, Pettis got the Showtime kick. And I appreciate her bringing this up. But Pettis didn't win that fight. I'm here to say that Henderson was robbed in that fight. And then the next fight, he lost to Clay Guida in his UFC debut. Pettis, we talked about Ferguson being overrated. Pettis is overrated. Pettis is fluky. Pettis is going to be exposed, and Pettis is joining his brother Sergio over in Bellator next year. He's been hearing all about how much Sergio loves Bellator. I get to fight dudes. I get to fight dudes from Ireland who I've never even heard of and make way more money and be the star. Don't you miss being on Wheaties boxes? We can't get you Wheaties, but we can get you Special K maybe. What do you think, Ant? You just got to lose to Alex Morano, and he won't even finish you, dude. He's just going to beat you by 29-28 decision. You'll be fine.
My third lock of the night. Man, Melissa's loving you, Aaron. Totally agree. All right. Let me drop a little bit of knowledge. A lot of things you said there was so on point. This is Anthony Showtime Pettis' last fight in the UFC. I hammer it down right now. It's happening. He's going to join his bro in Bellator. He's going to make more money. Anthony Showtime Pettis. One thing I know, dude, great fighter, great career. One thing I know about him, and I hope this doesn't come off wrong at all. The man loves his money. The man loves to do fun things. He loves to go fishing. He loves extravagant things. He takes care of his family. He's a good dude that loves money. This fight is absolutely, I think, huge to a negotiation battle between Bellator and UFC. If Showtime Pettis comes in and throws up a Superman punch, a spinning kick, if he gets a TKO knockout win, he goes to Bellator. Instead of going for 1-1, he goes for 2-2. Maybe UFC was like, dude, maybe he's got one last run in him. We don't want to see him walk away.
Here's the real breakdown. Go ahead.
I know you got it. So Showtime Pettis is getting the W. It's my third lock of the night. The man is going to get the win in nice fashion. I'm calling a finish right here. Showtime Pettis is back Saturday.
Well, he's fun to hang out with. Just make that as a note. He is a -230 favorite. So, I mean, the odds makers are telling us, that's a great. Oh, there's Jorge. Look at all of you and your friends. Man, that's so nice.
I got a video that one time I'll put it on TMC when he's less famous.
Hey, you know what? I got to meet Anthony Pettis at the first UFC on Fox in Chicago 5-6 years ago. So he stopped and did a face-off with me. I'm a huge fan. Got to meet Tyron Woodley that night before he was in the UFC. I got a real quick
Showtime story. I think I said it. What promotion was that? That's for Dean Tool Promotion, Pensacola, Florida, last summer. Put that up there. Real quick Showtime story. Honest to God, we're walking downtown Pensacola. We're having fun. We're eating food. We're drinking a couple cold beverages. We're having fun. Anthony Showtime Pettis, there's literally a bum on the ground. It's Yoel Romero, Masvidal, Dean Tool, Anthony, Sergio, myself. I don't know how I'm in this group, but I'm walking with them. There's a bum there. Showtime Pettis out of his pocket literally takes $100 bill out of his pocket, gives it to the bum. There's no cameras around. There's no media around. It might be around 1:30 a.m. I'm not too sure. It might be 1:50. I don't know.
Whatever.
And literally gives it to this bum. And the bum like kind of wakes up and he goes, "Thank you so much. That changed my life. Thank you." And Anthony was like, "No, like let it be beneficial. Like hopefully it starts something positive for you." I was like, dude, Showtime's my guy. Like that was such a good, genuine story.
This is not like picking against his character, because honestly, he did like I had a moment with him where he, stopped. He was on his way to a radio interview and he just stopped for me because I wasn't with the crowd. I recognized him. Then a huge crowd came around him. It was like, it's the Showtime guy. And he's like, sorry, I had to go. And he like shook my hand. And he looked, this isn't about a character. This isn't really about a character thing. I just think that this is a tough spot for Pettis, a tougher spot than I think maybe some people realize. And I think the odds are a little bit off here, honestly, at where the guys are at in their careers.
It's a little rich, I agree, but I think the bettors know in a way this is his last on a contract deal. Any football player, basketball, or baseball player has their career year, and he knows. I have a feeling Showtime has a little bit of juice left in him, and he's going to have a Showtime performance. So he goes into the free agent market with a huge knockout behind him, going viral, have the management group push it. I think this is going to be a big knockout win.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to this one for sure, and we will definitely see. Speaking of fights, we're looking forward to the fight on the card that we are looking forward to more than any other one for the rest of the year. This is the Savage Banana Breakdown, and she is not Jillian for the next 48 hours. She is Savage Robertson, and she's going up against Talia Santos here. Talia Santos 16-1. She's 1-1 against MMA fighters, in my opinion. As her other 14 fights are against like a combined like 6-6 record. All those fighters had 0-1 or 1-0 records, all in Brazil. And not only that, Talia Santos was supposed to fight 2 weeks ago against Montana De La Rosa.
Right.
She got that fight canceled after she weighed in at 125 pounds. And so this is a situation that we saw a few weeks ago, and we talked about this actually. Davidson Figueiredo and Moreno. Davidson Figueiredo, I do think, was affected by the quick weight cuts. I do think it took away from him in a significant way. And I do think that he tried to keep his weight fairly low between those two fights, which I think takes away, which taxes the body, it taxes the mind. And Santos is no Davidson Figueiredo, in my opinion.
Right.
I do think that she is, decently big for the division, but she's only 5'6", but I think you look at her and she's got a fair amount of muscle definition to her. I don't think this is an easy cut by any means. I think having it 2 times in 3 weeks, she's never had to do anything like this. And I think that not only that, but this is a matchup that Jillian has shown she can win and has shown in her last several fights, preparing for Andrea Lee, who is, in my opinion, a better striker than Santos, a more well-rounded MMA fighter, obviously had faced better competition, more experience. To come into this fight with Santos and it now be a pick'em blows my mind. I don't understand it. Jillian is shifting to being an underdog, which I absolutely love from my betting perspective. But I can't understand what the betting public is seeing here. I think that Santos is going to have a lot of trouble. One of her biggest tools is her leg kicks, and you can't really leg kick Jillian for too long unless you want to end up on your back. And also, Talia Santos against Molly McCann had to resort to a lot of grappling. She was not winning the striking exchanges hands down.
She beat McCann, unanimous decision. Jillian fought McCann and choked her out.
In Liverpool. And her fight was in Liverpool. She absolutely decimated Molly McCann. I was in Boston hearing them talk about that fight last year, and Molly McCann literally looked at, and this was after Molly McCann's best performance last October, looked at Jillian and said, "You changed how I fight. You changed." And you can hear how a lot of opponents talk about Jillian, including in the ring with Courtney Casey. She's a fucking blanket and then gets choked out later in the fight. Poliana Bontello has her coaches screaming at her to not throw leg kicks by round 2 because they knew it would happen every time she threw one. I think Santos here has gotten extremely overrated as a result of a padded record. She is facing by far her toughest competition here in Jillian. Jillian has only faced UFC competition her entire career. She has put herself in crazy situations, going into a tough house on 10 days notice and then fighting Barb Honchak in the first fight on the Ultimate Fighter. She got ahead of everybody in how she trained with COVID times and joining Dean. You've talked to her this week. We, see with the Dean Diaries that dropped today. She's traveling. She's going to train with Wonderboy, somebody who is one of the best pure stand-up guys in the game to work stand-up techniques on. You're taking that grappler and having her work with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. She's not taking time off. She is only focused on fighting. That is her only focus. And she's been able to get 3 fights in this year. She was ready to fight last week. It gave her just one more week. She doesn't cut this huge amount of weight, and that's why she can go this rate for 15 minutes. She said it before. She's like, these girls may be bigger, but I'm better. And in this fight, we're going to see it all day. She will be getting a finish, and my hair will be red.
There we go.
Let's go, Savage Robertson.
There we go.
We're here with you on Fight Bananas. And
I'll finish it. That is all true and double down. Her first fight as a pro, she fights Hannah Goldie, who is in the UFC. All she does is fight tough competition. Even in the UFC, nothing. She never ducked anyone. No one wanted to fight Macy Barber. She fought Macy Barber. That loss will help her in this fight and course fights going forward. She wants to fight the toughest people. Every time I talk to her and Dean, they'll take Valentina whenever. They'll just take the if they don't feel like she's ready to win it, it's not like a duck game. It's not about she will lose her contendership spot or a number spot. She's a savage for a reason. I think she's going to get a finish. There's just something about the veteranship, the gritness. She's been here before. This might be the best line on one side, and I know we're so homers on this, but I just think there's no way you can just look at their rate of competition or rate of decisive decisions. Even Santos, a lot of times she's fighting 0-2 girls, and she goes to a decision. There's just no killer instinct. There's no she's got a powerful right hand. Jillian's got to be aware. There's just none of that. She's just big. She's strong looking, but there's still, I think, technique-wise, grappling-wise, I almost want to guarantee a submission. But I will lock in 100%. Jillian Savage Robertson is getting the W, no doubt about it. -115 is free money. You can parlay Jillian.
Crazy. Yeah, it's the closest line on the night.
Yeah,
it's close. It doesn't get closer than this. And
it's my second lock of the night.
Yeah, I think that
Jillian, and I got one more for you that you're gonna love later on.
Okay, well. It's okay to be wrong on the Pettis one. I've got my locks of the night right now are Flick and Jillian. I've had that parlay locked in for weeks on end at this point. It's not going anywhere. And these two, I think, get their fights done in very similar ways. And I think I've kind of similar matchups in weird ways.
Right. I agree.
They very much mirror each other. But Talia is going to be exposed. The Brazilian killer adds another Brazilian to her list. Hopefully we're seeing Jillian smile because that means the finish happened.
There we go.
If the finish doesn't happen, we're not seeing the smile. But either way, sorry to call you Savage Robert. Sorry, I called her Jillian for a second. I don't know who Jillian is. Savage Robertson. We're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to talking with her before and after the fights. Yeah, go Jillian. The red short hair doesn't look too bad. Gotta say. I'll finish it off later, but yeah, Cougar Red pulls through again. So, I always, like to put on the red at night. All right. And that's, by the way, main card Jillian. Let's keep her there. Let's keep her on those main cards.
I don't think she ever falls again, because I think her versus Lee would be, to me, a really nice co-main event or featured bout on a fight night card. Mm-hmm. And after that, there's only those top end matchups left. Caitlin, Lauren,
Cynthia. And I favor her in all of those matchups. I won't go on a rant here, but man, Andrea Lee has been celebrating being out of that fight last week. Man, she's loving having that UFC next to her name going into the new year. Wow. She is celebrating like she purposely got her nose broken. I'm just saying. She was on Instagram more after that fight got canceled than before that fight got canceled. I'm just saying, man. She is having smiley pictures, laughing, like it's and she was smiling with the broken nose after she said she pulled out. There's pictures of her. So that is a fight personally I want to see for Jillian, but Jillian doesn't care who she fights. She just cares that she's fighting and that she's getting better. She is moving up and well-deserved, and I cannot wait to watch her in the final card of the year. I was, heartbroken a couple weeks ago, but it's all working out, and I know that she's focused and ready to go. So we're looking forward to it here at Savage Bananas, obviously.
Absolutely. We can't wait. Fight of the night. Hope she gets that $50K bonus.
It's been the fact that she hasn't gotten a bonus yet is ridiculous. But yeah, let's get her there.
I really think, and there's a lot of good stuff on this card. And like I said, I really think we're going to see a pretty awesome knockout with Showtime, but I don't know. Would the UFC want to give him $50K on the way out? Maybe they don't. I really foresee, I'm being honest. I think Jillian's getting an extra $50K Sunday on top, cherry on top.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm honestly looking forward to the rest of the fights on this card. So I will keep saying that, and I will keep meaning it. The next fight on the card is a fantastic heavyweight fight, and I do feel this is a really, really good. We're going to learn a lot in this fight, which is what I mean by it. Maybe it's not the most entertaining. I really like the matchup, though, because I have a lot of questions about both these guys. Marcin Tybura versus Greg Hardy. Currently, the odds, Tybura is a plus 105. Greg Hardy is minus 125. My thoughts on this fight. Greg Hardy, better MMA guy than people give him credit for.
Correct.
And Tybura, I think a better MMA guy than people give him credit for. I think Tybura went through a really bad point of his career in the UFC, and it showed when he was showing up in the condition he was showing up in, and then how he was being put away by guys like Sakai, which is really, I'm worried about that. But the Tybura we've seen recently against Rothwell, even in his fights prior, his last couple of fights prior, he's looked so much better to me. And I think that he has a game that can really exploit the weaknesses in Greg Hardy's game. And I do see that if Greg Hardy isn't able to get that first round finish, that this turns into Tybura's fight. I think Greg Hardy very well wins the first round, so your price on Tybura is going to skyrocket up. I think Tybura wins rounds 2 and 3. And I think that he wins it with a lot of cage work, a lot of clinch work. I also think leg kicks were something that Greg Hardy really showed he struggled with against Maurice Green, where he was a huge, huge favorite. And he, still struggled with the leg kicks. I think Tybura, leg kicks, 100%. You're with me, Tybura.
You're so spot on this fight. Everything that you're saying is 100% what I wanted to say. I think Greg Hardy fights 100 random people, and Marcin fights 100 random people. Greg Hardy is the better cage fighter than Marcin. But this matchup, them versus each other, out of 10 matchups, I got Marcin winning 7, maybe 8 in that 7 range. And at even money here, you got to go on that way. Like I said, I think Greg Hardy's better. Mm-hmm. Marcin wins this fight.
Yeah,
that's what I see it.
Yeah, I love the over 2.5, which I don't know the exact price on that, but I'm pretty sure you're getting a good price there because Greg
Plus
Hardy's got,
120.
love it. I love it because I do think Greg Hardy wins a decision. If he does win, where maybe he's able to win those first 2 rounds and kind of survive the third round. Greg Hardy has this kind of image as this first round one hitter quitter guy, but he hasn't been doing that since he's faced like legitimate competition. And he did grab an inhaler against Alan Crowder. So it's like, but we did see the good performance against Jorgen De Castro, but Tabora throws way more volume than a Jorgen De Castro and has way more experience and better cardio, better size.
Great Hardy by points is plus 550.
That is not a bad little dip.
Yeah, that's not bad. I don't mind that.
So what they're saying is Greg Hardy by knockout or Tabora by decision.
Yeah, the knockout's 150 and Tabora by points is only plus 200.
Yeah, so they're saying Tabora decision or Hardy KO.
I like the plus 550. I'm not going to lie on that, especially like I said, even money. So that's one of those things. It's gambling, guys. You could put 20 on Marcin at a plus 105. And then you have a little bit, you have some fun. You put a little 20 spot on Hardy at plus 550 plus the points. So that means if he doesn't get a first round knockout and he squeaks out a 29-28 or a split decision, you lose $20 on the Marcin, but you're going to win 120 on that. And you're going to literally net gain $80 positive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's not a bad idea at all. For me, I do think that, Tabora is a nice parlay piece because he shoots those parlays up at that plus money. And
I don't want to side rail the show at all. I will have to get going in a couple minutes.
No, that's fine.
I want to do the Aldo versus Vera with you.
Oh boy. And if you're we'll go. I'll go ahead and cover the rest of the card in a minute. So we're gonna move to the co-main event here.
Yeah.
Scarface Aldo and my boy Marlon Chito Vera. Chito Vera currently the underdog, of course, at plus 130. I'm very, very pleased to see. I'm pleased and sad to see that line because they almost respected Vera fully, but they decided not to completely believe in my boy. Go ahead and take it away.
My absolute lock of the night. Jose Aldo gets an inside the distance win. And I all the way in this fight, when this was match made, I was like, oh, I love Cheeto. We've been on Cheeto. And all this was going on. I'm like, okay, I'm going to like it. The line came out. I'm like, okay, I wish he was a little bit higher. I wish he was a plus 180, 200. He wasn't. So I felt he got naturally respected. But I looked into I watched the last 3-4 of those fights. I watched the last 3-4 Aldo's fights. And probably one of the things I love the most, I talked to someone inside betting and yesterday, or the debut was Wednesday. So yesterday. If both of their last fights, so if Cheeto never fought Sugar Sean O'Malley, and if Aldo never fought Jan, if this fight would be the co-main event, they would have Jose Aldo at minus 350. So I think that for who's in a nutshell, I think that Peter Yan's a really, really good top end fighter, champion, might lose to Sterling, but I think we all agree that Yan's pretty damn good, right?
Yeah, he's best 135 in the world right now.
There you go. Okay, I love that. So losing to Jan in the 4th or 5th round, whatever that was, is not a horrible loss. And Cheeto beating O'Malley is a really great win. But in a weird way, we don't know how great O'Malley is and going to be. So I think both of those, it's just the line is overblown of him losing to Jan, the best 135er, and Cheeto beating O'Malley that maybe in a year and a half from now might be in Bellator. Like, I just don't know. He might bounce back from it. I don't know. I love Jose Aldo in this spot. I think he knows that if he loses a co-main event spot, his days at the top end are done. They are cutting those type of guys. They are cutting guys for $200K, $300K who main evented UFC 80s and 120s and 150s. I think this is a dangerous spot that you're going to get a mad Jose Aldo. You're going to get a really zoned in, locked in Jose Aldo. And no, this isn't negative at all to Cheeto at all. Huge career. I think he bounces back from this, goes on another 3-4 fight win streak. Jose Aldo puts down Cheeto Vera inside the distance. Love Aldo in this fight.
Okay, well, my thoughts on this fight. You'll be quite surprised, but I don't completely disagree with you actually in this fight.
Wow!
So this is how I'm approaching this fight. This is a fight that I am taking a Billy Quantillo approach on, which if you haven't followed our podcast, I'm live betting this fight. I need to see how bad the first round is for Vera, because I do believe Vera is losing the first round. I need to see how bad he loses the first round. I need to see how the first round finishes with regards to the momentum, with regards to the overall, how both guys are looking in there. I'm not going to know what my full prediction on this fight is until I see the first round. I know that's a little bit of a cop-out in this situation. If I had to make a pick right now, I would pick Jose Aldo. I would not pick him to get the finish, however. So that does surprise me a bit. I do think Vera is tough enough. I think both guys are going to be tough enough to not get finished in this fight, actually, especially with it being 3 rounds. And I know Vera's a finisher. I know Vera doesn't win decisions. I get that. I do think, again, if he's going to beat a guy by Aldo, I think he cannot only count on a finish being his only way to win a fight. So I do like Aldo if I had to make an official pick, but I'm really looking closely at – there's a reason my name is Aaron the Dog today. Because Jillian wasn't quite a dog yet, so I couldn't call her. Couldn't call me the Savage Dog, nor am I even close to earning that moniker. And Cheeto, I just couldn't do it. So I'm fully rooting for Cheeto Vera in this fight. I think this is a huge opportunity for Cheeto Vera. I think that this is going to be a really good fight. But Aldo looked really good against Jan. I didn't see the negatives that a lot of other people seem to be pointing out. Painting that fight. And, but I do think that I'm still not crazy about a 135 Aldo. I know he's been able to do the cut a few times, but it's just not a cut I love for him as he gets older.
Right. And I see that a lot. And it's just it's more of a feeling. There's a mojo. It's a little bit of the Showtime thing. There's just something about, to me, Jose Aldo is a top 10, top 18 mixed martial artist of our lifetime, our generation. Mm-hmm. And he knows this fight is just so big for him. Like Cheeto Vera still got the O'Malley. And if he loses to an all-time great, there's no shame, especially if I think it's a war. I think they both throw heavy. And it's one of those things. Cheeto's going to get off a nice shot, and I think Jose Aldo's going to come over with a left, a counter left, and he puts him down, and he kind of gets on top, and it's like not a knockout, not a Moicano, a knockout, but I think it's going to be one of those TKOs, ref jumps in, Jose jumps on the ring, and it's just I think Jose needs this win. I think it's a big win for him, and his back is against the wall, and I love it. So,
this is why I'm live betting it. If I do see that finish, hopefully it's in the first round, so that I don't have to lose any money here. The body has been suspect for Aldo for several fights now, and Cheeto rains down on the body. I'll be talking about in the main event. Big reason I'm not going with Neal, but Neal doesn't go to the body at all ever.
Right.
So, this isn't the problem here, but I really want to pick Cheeto. I can't. If I had to pick an official pick, I got Aldo. I am with you on that. But the odds really were encouraging to me, and Melissa and I we're just on the same page today. What can I say?
I know you guys have. It's a kismet with you two guys. Hey, switch. Handles. Hey,
yeah,
dog.
Yeah, I know you have to go, so we'll let you go, man. But
appreciate it.
I'm gonna break down the rest of these fights, and we'll talk to you soon. Maybe we'll do a breakdown.
We'll take you guys home. It's a great card. Enjoy it Saturday night. And Jillian the Savage Robertson takes over. Jillian's actually going to be on tonight with Kat Nelson on the Fight Bananas platforms, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So check that out. That's it. I'm out. Go Yeah. Go bet money.
Go, Jillian. Go, Jillian. All right.
Go
Peace out, Dave.
Later, bro.
All right. So for a moment, got to be a little less awkward. Got to talk with another person. Remember what this podcast is like to do with a co-host. So that was great. All right. Just going to reset here. We did jump ahead to the co-main event for a moment. So Dave could, what he thought was break my heart. Unfortunately, we have a little bit agreed there. But tentatively, again, I'm looking to very possibly bet Vera live betting him in the situation, maybe getting a little better of a price there. But anyways, we are going on to the next fight, which is the fourth from the top, and it is a bantamweight fight between Rob Font and Marlon Moraes. At bantamweight, like I said, Marlon Moraes right now the -150 favorite, coming off a really, really not great knockout against Corey Sandhagen. He wasn't put like out cold, but he was knocked out in the last couple months. And then, I think overall Marlon has been having a little bit of a tough time with it, in all honesty. And I think that this might be a little bit of a case where he started to take a little bit too much damage, and it started to maybe catch up to him a little bit more. He's only 32 years old, but he's been in a lot of wars. We saw in this Henry Cejudo fight, he gassed after one round. So there's cardio issues, I think, for him still. He had a split decision win over Jose Aldo, but Jose Aldo was the one who had the energy. And that was Jose Aldo's bantamweight debut. He was the one who was pushing the pace in the third round. Marlon was the one who had to hang on to the third round. Rob Font is a good guy. He's a little bit too inactive of a fighter for my taste. 33 years old, hasn't fought since Ricky Simone and December of last year, so it's been about a year. Before that, he fought in December of the year before, so he fights about once a year. So COVID or not, this seems to be about the rate he fights at. He doesn't exactly have the most devastating punching power. He does have a finish of Matt Schnell early on in his career, but and then of Thomas Almeida as well. But in general, he doesn't exactly have the deadly punchy power. Marlon Moraes should be able to win this fight, but frame-wise, Rob Font's going to have the reach advantage, 71.5 inches to 66.5. So a 5-inch reach advantage for Rob Font. And Rob Font hasn't taken the amount of damage Marlon has taken. This is another spot where I kind of like the dog, I think. There's definitely a way that Marlon wins and can finish this fight, I believe. But, Rob has not been finished very easily in his career. And he was only finished, I believe, one time. And, he was finished one time by guillotine choke by Pedro Munoz. Marlon Moraes does have a good guillotine, so there's a chance there. And Marlon I think this may be kind of too quick of a turnaround for Marlon, who I believe, got pretty cleanly knocked out. It was stopped maybe slightly early against Sandhagen in October, but he's turning right around. And I like the dog here. I do like Rob Font. I think Rob Font could finish, but I think the decision is well within play as well. At plus 130, we got another dog. So I'm going with Rob the dog here. So not Jillian's Rob the dog, but just Rob the dog, Rob Font the dog. So another good fight. And now we'll move on to our third from the top. This fight is at 170 welterweight division, and this is a fun one. It usually is with Michel Pereira. He is Pereira. Sorry, Michel Pereira, not Michel Pereira. Very different guy. Michel Pereira. And he is taking on Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams has been very, very enjoyable so far in his UFC career, to say the least. Putting away two guys very, very quickly in Al Hassan as well as Alex Morono. Pereira looked much better in his fight against Zalim Imodov. And his last performance, that was coming off of two not great performances against Tristan Connolly. And then he was beating Diego Sanchez until that illegal knee that got the fight to be a DQ. And then Chaos Williams, so far what we've seen from him in the UFC is a total of under 1 minute, finished Morono in 27 seconds, and then came back against Al Hassan and finished him in 30 seconds. So both fights, he was a pretty decent dog. Here he comes in as nearly even, plus 125. Pereira is the very, very slight favorite. I think Pereira, looks to make this a much more, and we got a KO. I'm guessing for chaos for David. And I do think that there's a chance of that, but I do think Pereira is going to fight this fight a little smarter than maybe some of his previous fights. Imadev showed me quite a bit. I do think he has better ring IQ than he's given credit for. Chaos Williams, we don't know what he looks like really outside of 30 seconds. I mean, if he comes in there and connects early and finishes, we don't learn a lot. And so it results in me having to go back to maybe a little bit earlier in his career and looking into, how he maybe struggled against some subpar competition to get some decision wins. So I'm going to take Pereira here. I think that he's very aware of how dangerous his opponent is, and I don't think he's going to put himself in terrible situations. I think he'll look to maybe use a more overall MMA game plan here, while Chaos Williams, I've kind of seen is kind of just stand and bang. And if his opponent's not willing to do that, maybe he struggles a little bit with the adjustments here. So I'm going to take Pereira. This is a dog that initially I was leaning towards, but I'll take Pereira at just above even money here. I think this could be a really good fight, but the less entertaining it is, the better it is for Michelle, in my opinion. So, looking forward to it. Again, we covered the co-main event with Jose Aldo and Marlon Chito Vera. Tentatively, I'm with Jose Aldo, but I'm really looking for a reason to live bet that for Vera. So Jose Aldo, definitely not one of my locks of the night. So props to Dave. We don't always agree, and we don't agree on one of his locks, and on Jose Aldo being a lock, we don't agree. But that's what makes the sport awesome, crazy. I'm really looking forward to that co-main event again, and I'd love to be wrong according to this podcast. And just another thing, I am going to be keeping track of my picks in 2021. So we're going to have a better idea. I was around a 65% clip for this year. I want to have an actual track going next year. So anybody listening, if they also want me to keep track of theirs, drop your predictions to me at Aaron J. A. Y. Brooks on Twitter or in the comments of this video, and I'll keep track of them every week for you. You just got to put them down below. Anyways, going to the main event of the evening. Thank you all again for joining me here. Dave, thank you for coming in and joining me for a bit there. I always enjoy talking to you about fights, and I wouldn't have this platform if it wasn't for you, bro. So big thanks to you. Gotta love Dave. We're to the main event of the evening. And it's a good one. It's at 170. It's between Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Jeff Neal. Wonderboy, got to be one of the most underrated guys in this division. Has some amazing wins over guys like Robert Whitaker and many, many others. Vicente Luque in his last performance was a really good performance, and I think let us know a lot about this fight, perhaps. Now, he was caught a few times by Vicente in that fight. I do think Jeff Neal is quicker than Vicente also, and has a little bit more finishing power probably than Vicente. Does not quite have the diverse striking game plan I think that's needed. We know that Pettis had that Superman punch off the cage to beat Thompson, but and we know that in Tyron Woodley's first fight, he did catch Thompson. I think that what Jeff Neal has to do in this fight in order to win is not be the one moving forward the whole time, which I think is going to be very hard for Jeff Neal to do. And it's very hard for a lot of fighters to do against a guy like Wonderboy. They just kind of fall into the web, so to speak. And then they end up kind of getting tooled up here. And I think that Neal has the tools to put him away. I just don't quite see it. I don't love that Jeff Neal had a pretty serious health issue back in September of this year, where I believe he went into septic shock, and he had to be hospitalized for quite a while. And that was just in September, so only a few months ago. And I don't believe is a full-time fighter yet at this point. And just overall, I think that Wonderboy has shown that he can get crap. So that's where I think that does explain the line. It's at -120 plus 100. I'm with Wonderboy here. I do think Wonderboy is able to kind of just craft the decision together over the 5 rounds and avoid the power. I wish Neal was a little more diverse in his striking. He throws almost exclusively to the head with all of his punches, all of his strikes, nearly all, and I think he can catch Steven. I just don't see him being able to. I think it's a little bit of a kickboxing karate clinic for Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson has a very good facility that he's been training in, and he's training full-time. He's looking really sharp. And yeah, he does have 5-round experience. I think he has experience against guys similarly to Mr. Neal. We will be hearing that Wonderboy tune, not with an audience, however. But I don't think that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fights too much differently with the audience. And Melissa, thank you for joining us during this podcast. Hopefully we have you back on soon, because we've appreciated I've appreciated the comments. Maybe Dave didn't appreciate them. I appreciated the comments and the support. And I appreciate the comments and support from everybody. But for the final fight of this crazy year of 2020, it's been a great year for MMA, in my opinion. I am going with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who is the underdog at plus 100. Probably ends up about pick 'em by fight time, if I had to guess. I just like the diversity of the striking that Stephen Thompson has to offer. And just a really quick turnaround for Jeff Neal, who is coming off a pretty serious injury that I think is going to affect him and his ability to go 5 rounds. But yeah, until next time, don't worry. I'm very easy to disagree with, and we will have many over the time. Looking forward to it. But yeah, that concludes this 14-fight card. I'd say this episode was not a disaster. I had a good time. I am aware that my forehead has hair dye on it, but, I will get that out. I'll work that through. The Cougar Red has set in, and, we are ready to see the Savage do work, ready to see Jimmy do work. I'm ready to see the rest of the card as well, but I'm here for the Savage this weekend, and she's about to do work, so make sure to send your support to her, Savage UFC on Instagram. Also, you can shoot me a message over on Instagram anytime at Aaron Jay Brooks, or down in the comments here. I'll be going live at the beginning of next year when fights resume in mid-January. And until then, I'll be back here with some fighter interviews until then, and until the next breakdown. Enjoy the Titan FC tonight on Fight Pass if you're looking for some fights to watch. Kayla Harrison not fighting, unfortunately. Her opponent came in at 185 pounds for a 145-pound fight. So this world of MMA doesn't ever get old, does it? But until next time, I'm Aaron the Dog. Follow us at Fight Bananas for all things. Join Kat tonight at 7 p.m. She has Jillian Robertson joining her on the podcast. It's an awesome podcast. We love Kat. So Aaron the Dog, Kat, Dogs and Cats, gang along. What is happening here? Have a great rest of your 2020, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you in 2021. Peace out and enjoy the fights.